Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 27 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. I'm Nana Aquare. I'm in for Patrick Christie's. Right, so the Prime Minister is being urged by members of the Conservative Party to drop, quote, unpopular, expensive green policies ahead of the next general election. Now, it's been said that the Tories holding Uxbridge and South Ruislip in last week's by-election showed that there is actually a real chance that Sunak could win the next general election, where Labour have blamed London Mayor Sadiq Khan's for expansion of ULEZ as the reason for the narrow Tory victory. Well, let's have a chat with Harry Wilkinson. He's the head of policy of Net Zero Watch. Harry, good to talk to you. So let's start with this. Do you think, because this is the big question, that the Tories actually have a chance if they're not able to fully ditch net zero, but if they were to change it in a way that was more appeasing to the electorate?
Well, I think this is a vital opportunity for the Conservative Party. What they need to do is actually show that they have a different approach to climate change than the Labour Party. People do want to see climate change dealt with, but they don't want to see it done in a way that harms them, that doesn't leave them affordable energy, that stops them driving their car, stops them from having a gas boiler and heating their home affordably. So I think this backlash that we're seeing from some Conservative MPs is about looking at the parts of the net zero agenda which risk doing the most harm. And in particular, I'm thinking of the potential ban on petrol and diesel cars and the proposed phase out of gas boilers. These don't seem practical, affordable policies. Many people in industry have expressed great concern about them. So I think a more sensible approach to net zero by the Conservatives would say this is an ambition, but it's not going to be a legally binding target, because this leaves us in a quite absurd position where we can pursue policies that are blatantly irrational, where the costs of these policies are greater than any benefits that they might have in terms of reduced emissions. Then government should be able to say, no, we're not going to go down that alleyway.
Well, we can thank Theresa May for her incredible deal that led us to the 2050 deadline for net zero. But the thing is, though, why do you think? Because not only some of the things you mentioned, but other stuff, pylons, they were talking about building hundreds of miles of pylons to power, to get the electricity to power the windmills, or take the electricity from the windmills to power all the EVs and everything they were talking about. Why do you think that they didn't listen to the public at all? Because neither party have been listening, and we, the public, have been saying this forever.
That's right. Well, there's been huge amounts of lobbying by the renewables industry, and we've got this big blob-like organisation in terms of the Committee on Climate Change, which is very in favour of state planning. They think they can predict the future on a spreadsheet. They think they know already exactly the technologies people will use in the future. But of course, they don't know. What the government really should focus on is getting energy cheaper. A lot of climate change policies can be facilitated through electrification, and that requires cheap electricity. So if the government focuses on getting the basics right, and that's cheap electricity for everybody, then it will actually have a happy consequence in that it helps reduce emissions at the same time. What the government shouldn't be doing is saying this technology we should use, that technology we should use, because actually it's markets, it's competition that can help make those decisions for us. We don't need to predict the future to do that.
So just briefly, because I've got about 20 seconds, are you in favour of net zero ultimately?
Not in terms of a legally binding target. I think when it comes to things like Heathrow, we had a big political debate about that. Our elected representatives, after much chewing and froing, actually said that they believed that should go ahead. But then we saw that overturned in the courts because they said it wasn't compatible with net zero. I don't think that's how people envisaged net zero working in this inflexible way. So we do need to reform net zero to achieve a more flexible approach.
Harry, thank you very much for your thoughts. That's Harry Wilkinson. He's the head of policy at Net Zero Watch.